The story of the Crying Boy painting is one of the most unusual modern legends. It is not a ghost story from ancient times or a myth from old folklore. Instead, it is a strange mix of real house fires, newspaper exaggeration, unlucky coincidences, and ordinary people who became frightened by something they did not understand. The incident shows how quickly fear can spread when small events are repeated, misunderstood, or given supernatural explanations. Even though the painting itself was just a picture of a sad boy, many people in the 1980s believed it brought disaster. To understand why, we need to look at where the painting came from, what actually happened, and how the idea of a curse grew into a nationwide scare. The painting known as the Crying Boy was created by an Italian artist named Bruno Amadio, also known by the name Giovanni Bregolin. He painted many pictures of sad children in the 1950s, often showing them with wide eyes and tears running down their cheeks. These paintings became popular because they were emotional, dramatic, and had a mysterious look. Over the years, thousands of prints were made and sold. In the United Kingdom especially, the Crying Boy was sold in furniture shops, department stores, and gift stores. It was not expensive, and many families bought it simply because it looked touching or artistic. It became a common decoration, especially in working-class homes. Some people remember seeing it in many houses they visited. It was almost like a trend, and the picture became familiar across the country. The strange part of the story did not begin until the 1980s. In 1985, a popular British newspaper called The Sun published a shocking article about a house fire. In the report, a family's home had been nearly destroyed by flames. The fire damaged walls, furniture, and personal belongings. But when firefighters looked through the wreckage, they noticed something very unusual: a copy of the Crying Boy painting lying on the floor, completely undamaged. The article described this in a dramatic way, hinting that the painting had somehow survived the fire, as if it had magical protection. The newspaper played up the mystery and made the story sound frightening. It did not take long for other readers to respond. After the first article, more people wrote to the newspaper, claiming that their homes had burned and that they too had owned a copy of the Crying Boy painting. They said the painting had been found untouched among the ashes. The newspaper quickly turned this into a major story. Week after week, new articles appeared about strange fires connected to the same painting. Headlines used dramatic words like curse, haunted, and jinxed. In a short time, many people began to believe that there was something dangerous about the painting. If they had not heard about it from the newspaper, they heard it from neighbors, relatives, or television shows discussing the topic. As more people became frightened, rumors started to grow. Some said that the boy in the painting was an orphan whose parents died in a fire. Others claimed he was a child who accidentally caused a fire and was blamed for it, so his spirit was restless. Still, others believed the boy's tears were a sign that he had suffered and that misfortune followed him everywhere. These stories were never proven, but they spread easily because people were already afraid. When people are scared, they often look for a reason, even if the explanation is not logical. The legend became stronger with each new retelling. During this time, firefighters were asked repeatedly about the painting. Many fire stations received questions from worried citizens who wanted to know if their homes were at risk. One firefighter even said that he had seen the painting survive several fires, but he did not mean that the painting caused them. He simply meant that it often appeared undamaged when everything else burned. The media twisted his words, making the situation sound more dramatic than it really was. Because newspapers liked exciting stories, they continued spreading the idea of a curse. It became a nationwide sensation, even though the facts were uncertain. Eventually, so many people were scared that the Sun newspaper decided to take action. They told readers to send in their Crying Boy paintings if they wanted to get rid of them. The newspaper promised to destroy them. Readers responded quickly, mailing or dropping off hundreds of copies. In October 1985, the newspaper organized a huge bonfire to burn them. They reported the event as a way of ending the curse. People watched as the paintings were thrown into the flames. Ironically, some copies did not burn easily, which added more fuel to the idea that the paintings were supernatural. In reality, the material simply resisted fire because of the type of varnish used on the prints. But at the time, many people did not know this. So what was the real explanation behind the whole incident? Later investigations and expert opinions showed that there was nothing magical or cursed about the painting. Instead, there were several everyday reasons why the story spread. First, many households owned the crying boy painting. If a fire happened in a home, there was a good chance the homeowners had that picture on their wall simply because it was common. This created the illusion that the painting appeared in many fire cases when in fact, it was just a frequent decoration. Second, experts discovered that the prints were coated with a type of fire-resistant varnish. This meant the painting did not burn easily. Instead of catching fire quickly like paper normally would, it often stayed intact or fell off the wall and landed face down on the floor. The backside might be scorched, but the painted surface remained protected. This made it seem as if the crying boy painting had survived fires. But scientifically, it was simply tougher than normal art prints. Firefighters confirmed this later. They explained that it was common for some protected objects, like thick books or sealed artwork, to survive fires under the right conditions. Third, the house fires themselves usually had ordinary causes: faulty wiring, cigarettes left burning, cooking accidents, or heating problems. None of the fires were ever proven to be linked to the painting. But because people wanted a story, the painting became an easy target. Humans often like simple explanations, especially when something scary happens. Blaming the painting allowed people to channel their fear into an object, instead of facing the uncertainty of accidental fires. The story grew even more dramatic because of how newspapers handled it. Newspapers know that dramatic or spooky stories attract readers. Instead of calming the public or checking the facts, they encouraged the idea of a curse. They published letters from scared readers without verifying their claims. They repeated rumors and legends without evidence. As a result, the public's fear became stronger. Even people who did not believe in curses before began to feel uneasy, simply because they were hearing the same scary story again and again. This is a common effect seen in many myths. When something is repeated enough, it begins to feel true. Over the years, the legend of the crying boy painting became part of pop culture. Even after experts debunked the idea of a curse, the story continued to appear on television shows, documentaries, and internet discussions. Some people still claim the painting brings bad luck, while others collect it for fun because of its strange history. Many now treat the story as a spooky tale rather than a real danger. The painting has become famous not because of its artistic value, but because of the mystery and fear that once surrounded it. One interesting part of the story is how it shows the power of fear and storytelling. The crying boy painting was just a print on a wall, but because a few unusual events happened and were repeated in dramatic ways, it turned into a national scare. It also shows how easily people can misunderstand ordinary events when emotional stories are added to them. A painting surviving a fire is not impossible, but when connected to a sad image of a crying child, it becomes unsettling. People began to look for patterns where none existed. Fires happened for many different reasons, but because the painting survived, it became the focus of attention. Another lesson from the incident is about how newspapers and the media can influence public belief. When a story is reported in an exciting or frightening way, people often take it at face value. The crying boy incident happened before social media existed, yet rumors still spread rapidly because newspapers had huge influence. Many older people who lived during that time still remember how much attention the story received and how seriously some people took it. It became a topic of discussion in pubs, schools, workplaces, and living rooms. People debated whether they should remove the painting from their home. Some even refused to visit houses where it was displayed. Today, most people view the crying boy story as an example of mass panic, misunderstanding, and sensational journalism. There is no scientific evidence that the painting caused any harm. Instead, it was simply a decorative item that happened to survive several fires because of the way it was made. But the story remains interesting because it shows how myths can grow from ordinary events. It also reminds us to think carefully before believing dramatic stories, especially when they come from sources trying to attract attention. In the end, the crying boy painting is remembered not as a cursed object, but as a symbol of how easily people can be influenced by fear and coincidence. The fires were real, but the curse was not. The painting did not bring bad luck, and there was no supernatural force connected to it. What truly burned was not caused by the image, but by everyday accidents that could happen in any home. Yet the story lives on because it taps into our natural curiosity and our tendency to find meaning in strange patterns. The incident remains one of the best examples of modern folklore. It contains all the ingredients needed for a compelling urban legend: a mysterious image, unlucky events, emotional storytelling, and widespread belief. It also reminds us that sometimes the scariest part of a story is not the object itself, but the way people react to it. The crying boy painting did not curse homes, but the fear of it certainly haunted the minds of many people for years. That fear became the true fire that spread across the country.